Begin transmission.
This program is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
Well, hello everybody. Live chat is just popping today. Everybody's been on probably started an hour before show start. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey Largo, what's happening, man?
Hey Bill. It's another fun-filled Friday. I think it's Friday. I lose track.
Let's see who all's here, and we got some guests down there in the green room that we'll start bringing in here in just a minute. We got Bjorn Jorgensen. He's shambolicsing first one in the chat tonight. Gojitron's here. Good to see you there. World Made of Cardboard. He showed up. He's at home today because of the ice storm. Woo! We had that here too. Took a day out of work myself. Let's see who all else has showed up. Wilhelm Toy and Hobby. He's still at work though, so he may show up later. He's got an invite, though, if he wants to. He says, worst week ever, and I still have to work tomorrow. Boy, that sounds familiar.
Yep.
This guy had a pretty bad week, too, and got to work tomorrow, too. So he says he looks forward to seeing us and then forgetting about coming. So, all right. And Bjorn Jorgensen said he's got packages going out, so that's good. Let's see what else is going on down there. Oh, Jesse's here, Epic Badger. I see you down there in the green room too. We'll have a nice little panel here in just a second so we can interact with that live chat over there that I got going. All right, looks like that's everybody. So we'll start bringing in some guests. We'll start with World Made of Cardboard since he got here first. Hey, man, what's happening?
Oh, I just staying warm.
It's kind of chilly out there. It's starting to warm up here. We finally had some sun, and here comes the choo-choo train. Y'all can hear that in the background.
Hear a train to come.
StreamYard added something new. We can have our display names along with our headline or title. So some of you guys might want to go to the little three dots by your microphone and your thing there and edit that if you want to. That'd be great. Let's see, somebody made a comment. Hey, Manic Plastic Toy Shop's here. What's going on, Michael Purvis? Good to see you, sir. Going back over here, we got Gojitron. I'm gonna bring him on in the stream. Hey, Goji, how's it going, my man?
Gentlemen, good evening. How are you?
Hello.
Swell.
Better than I deserve, Goji.
Good to see everybody. I'm not going to put a title because Gojitron is my name and my title. That's all I am. So,
Gojitron, you can always have Gojitron with Gojitron underneath it, And we also have the Epic Badger here, so I'm gonna bring him on in the stream. What's going on, Mr. Hughes?
Hey.
Hello, howdy.
Hi, Jesse.
How you doing, everyone?
Doing great.
Good.
I'm so glad to be home, but I got IO, and off to work I go early in the morning. So boo. And I got a call.
I'm not sure if I saw my shadow or not, but we're having some inclement weather here. I don't know if it's cold, but it's wet.
Oh.
Describe inclement weather in Guatemala other than giant tropical storms?
That's it.
That's pretty much
You
it.
just described it.
It's a lot of rain. It's either hot and rainy or it's just hot.
Yeah, I'm originally from South Louisiana. I know the tropical storms, hurricanes, and in the spring and summer, about 3 o'clock, it always rains. So I was wondering why we
Yep.
even had weather forecasters. So it's just like same thing all the time. So
Ted Darklaw in the house.
Yeah,
Hey, Ted,
the
what's going on, man? He says he's
Ted?
about to take a drive, but he'll be
with
listening
the
to it.
Grandpappy's best weather forecaster was to hang a rope on the porch. If the rope's wet, it's probably raining. If it's stiff, it's probably icy. If it's gone, it's probably a hurricane.
yeah,
Sounds
Yeah, they
like
showed
y'all-
off that groundhog again, and apparently he says 6 more weeks. But in the Rockies, just like, oh, it's June. Here's some snow. July. Here's some.
Yeah.
Snow. The Rockies does what the Rocky wants.
yeah.
Like a little
Okay, well,
groundhog.
We've got to be nice now. My wife Andy Morgan has joined the chat, so we have to
I
be.
saw her waving down there. It's good to see you, Mrs. Cardboard. What I've always wondered about that stupid groundhog, all right? So if he sees his shadow, that means we get 6 more weeks of winter, but that means the sun has to be shining on the day he comes out of his hole. But the
Yeah.
sun's
I
never
think it's the
shining on
opposite.
the day he comes out of his hole. So, but he sees his shadow anyway. I mean, or do those guys with the top hats? Do they stand there with a flashlight and shine it on him to make him see his shadow?
They just stand there with one of these, like, hey, come here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's all. I think it's all the fix. It's fixed.
Well, that movie Groundhog Day was not filmed in Punxsutawney. It was filmed someplace else, from what I understand.
Well, of
my
course,
bro-
because Punxsutawney isn't quite as nice as that little area where they filmed that.
Oh,
that
yeah.
movie.
That's what my brother said. He went through the actual town. He was like, "This is a dump."
Yeah, the Punxsutawney's a dump. That little town that they showed in that movie was actually a nice little place to go visit. It looked like.
Oh yeah.
The magic of Hollywood.
Does the groundhog have his own Twitter or his own Instagram account? I assume he does.
I wouldn't doubt that. I bet he does.
I haven't. I have not even looked.
The official Punxsutawney groundhog. You know, there's 2 of them. There's another one somewhere else, and then they're in rivalry with one another.
Warring
Bjorn
factions
saying,
of groundhogs.
regardless.
All
if
I know
he
is
sees
it's
his shadow
it's
or
an
not,
excuse
still gonna
to.
be 6
Yep.
weeks. Yeah.
February 2nd is an excuse to watch a Bill Murray movie. So that's my
Probably one of the
yearly
best holding
ritual.
up movies that there ever is. So my question is this, okay? So how many years did Bill Murray's character spend in limbo, reliving that day over and over and over again?
I've heard it was several hundred.
I've heard more than that,
Actually,
thousands.
Yeah, on the DVD, there's an interview with the fellow that wrote the original story, and he said in his mind it was thousands of years it took him to change his ways.
Well, not only that, but
But-
it would take me 1,000 years just to be able to memorize what everybody's fixing to say before they say it for the whole 24-hour day.
He did have
That'd be
that down
about-
to science by the end.
Yeah, the Jeopardy sequence was probably be my difficult one there.
And,
So-
and then of course, how many 100 years did he spend killing himself over and over? That was kind of dark.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely a dark comedy. There's no doubt, but there's some great philosophical ideas behind the whole concept, and there have been people written papers on it and everything else. So, yeah.
All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put your feet on the fire there, Largo. So Largo brings up deep philosophical issues in something, and then I wanted to show that Plato's allegory of the cave on here, cartoon narrated by the great Orson Welles, and Largo says, "No, that's too deep for our audience."
Well, if you have the fella come on and talk about selling no wine before it's time, I think that'd work. But yeah, Plato's cave is not easy to digest in a short forum. I mean that is pretty deep stuff.
It is, but I kind of like the little cartoon, especially for the main fact was I don't know if they did that where you live at, John, but where I lived at on PBS, depending upon how long Doctor Who would go for, they would have these times that needed to be filled up with just a few minutes, but before the next show started on the hour, and they would put
Yeah.
this weird stuff in there, and the cartoon Plato's Allegory of the Cave, narrated by Orson Welles, no doubt, was one of them, along with the little music bit that I showed the other night with Angie Baby.
For the PBS station I watched was WYES out of New Orleans, and they started about 5 or 6 o'clock Saturday afternoon showing British comedies,
Mm-hmm.
and then about 10 o'clock, 10:30 they would show Doctor Who after all the comedies were over. Usually just before Doctor Who would be something like Blackadder or Red Dwarf, and then they'd go into Doctor Who, and then right after, and sometimes those little segments they would show, WYES had their own little production guys that would go out and just film things around New Orleans, and so they would have these little slice of life segments that were about as dull as ever, and it was just oh, look at this, here's a guy that boils crawfish. Okay, yay, whatever. So and but the one that my father liked, because he was a pilot, they had one where it was an entire sequence of a glider from be hauled up behind Cessna 182, then released, and it was they just watched it fly, and my father loved that one, but that was about it. And I hated on Saturdays when they would do their Showboat Auction 12, where they would, instead of showing Doctor Who, they would from all Saturday they'd just be auctioning off paintings and stuff.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I always
that
hated it when it was like Pledge Week, but Pledge Week usually turned into, it seemed like Pledge Month. And
Yes.
it seemed like every episode that you watched, about every 15 minutes, they would just break into it for another 30 to show these telephone operators answering phones and somebody standing up there begging money.
What was interesting when they did Doctor Who with that, back in the 80s, Doctor Who had its height in popularity on PBS. You know, they were showing all the Tom Baker episodes, and he was the greatest. They had some of the best writers at that time too, and everything. So it really had some good episodes. And I lived in Tangipahoa Parish, and there was a Doctor Who fan club called Tangi TARDIS Travelers, and they would man the telephones every time. And
Were they dressed in costume?
yes, some of them would. Some of them had a little more dignity than that, and would just be there in their usual outfits. But yeah, I will say this: I have enjoyed science fiction and stuff. I've enjoyed things, but I was never one that would dress up in anything. Like we would have days at school, dress up as your favorite character, and I would just wear a coat and say I'm Doctor Who, and that was it. I didn't go too big on anything, but and there was back when I was in college, there was a comic book shop in town, and in New Orleans that year they had a Star Trek convention came by.
Now those are the real nutters right there.
Yeah, and the guy that owned the comic book shop, there was another customer beside me. I never met him in my life, and I was standing there buying something. I don't even remember what I was buying, and he said, "Oh, you guys going to the Star Trek convention this weekend?" And we both, in stereo, never met each other ever, said, "No, they're weird down there." So we just didn't do it.
Well, you were talking about, the Doctor Who fan clubs. I lived in Huntsville, Alabama for a short period of time. It seemed like a several years, but it wasn't. It was only about a year or two. But they had a fan club for Doctor Who there called, I think it was like Rocket City Time Lords or something like that. And they would meet down in the public library in one of those conference rooms that you can get, at the library. And a buddy of mine was the manager at the local comic book shop, and he goes, "Well, they're meeting down at the library. You want to go down there and see what they got going on?" And I'm like, okay, I'd never been to something like that. So we went down there, and as soon as we walked in the room, I looked around the room and I said, "Are they dressed in costume?" And Eric goes, "No, Bill, that's the way they dress." And I'm like, "Ooh."
Yeah, the closest I ever came to someone from Tangi TARDIS Travelers, one of my teachers when I was in high school. She was in a play at the college there, and she said, "You've got to come see it and everything." And so I was there. My mother was sitting beside me, and it was a packed crowd. I can't even remember the play that was being shown or anything, but the lady beside me, I'd never met her before. She was flipping through a book, and I was just sitting there. It shows you how exciting the play was. I was
Yeah.
looking at her book, and she had autographs in the book, and one of them was John Nathan Turner, the producer, the showrunner of Doctor Who during the '80s. And I said, "I can't help but notice you have his signature." And she was like, "Yeah, I'm part of Tangis Tardy Travelers." And I said, "Oh, I've seen you guys on PBS when they're answering the phone." Yeah, there goes the phone. That's what it would sound like. So,
Better answer. It could be a donation.
Yeah, it could be a donation, right? Now you got to give a gift like a mug or something for that.
Yep, mug or a T-shirt. Yeah, my only brush with cosplay was. Do you remember McGruff, the crime dog?
Yes, I do remember him.
I had the dubious honor of having to play McGruff at work one time because I was the only guy who would fit in the dog head. So we were doing a show and tell for some kids, don't do crime and all that whatnot. So those things are hot, and you can't really see. So you got to have somebody to guide you around because when you've got that giant dog head on, you're pretty much blind and at the mercy of small kids kicking your shins.
Yeah.
So that was a terrifying experience, but yeah.
Did I ever tell you guys the story of my scoutmaster who dressed as Twinkie the Kid in the Christmas parade?
Twinkie the Kid. Oh, wow.
No joke. He had a Twinkie the Kid costume. He had this Twinkie the Kid costume, and in the Christmas parade, he would put it on and walk in the parade. And so we were Boy Scouts, so we had got a trailer and packed some dirt on top of it, and actually pitched a tent in the middle of it, and put what looked like a campfire up there, and put a tripod over it with a pot hanging, and had one guy kind of sitting in the tent, kind of hanging out, and we were hanging out around the fire, and and made a float, and so his wife's driving his pickup truck, pulling us in the trailer behind us, the float. And he's walking along beside the float as Twinkie the Kid. And so we meandered through towards the kind of bad side of town where there weren't hardly any street lights. And then Twinkie the Kid got mobbed by a gang of ne'er-do-wells. And I can remember very distinctly that Twinkie the Kid went to the toolbox on the back of his truck and lifted it up and got a tire iron out.
Were they trying to beat the cream filling out of him?
I think they were, but I remember Twinkie the Kid chasing the kids away with a tire iron in his hand. I just thought that was funny as hell.
Now every time a kid goes and gets a box of Hostess, he's traumatized.
Yeah. I remember, speaking about traumatizing parades, one of the ladies I knew when I was growing up, she was the dispatcher there's a little town just it is a crossroads, okay? It's called Tickfall, Louisiana, okay? It's just a little Tickfall. And they had a Christmas parade, okay? This is like a little mom and pop shop putting on a parade, but they would do it. And Santa was there for their Christmas parade. Some guy one of the police officers dressed up as Santa. They closed down the road and every main street and everything, and people were all lined up to see it and everything. And Santa Claus got off to go say hi to the kids and everything and shake hands because something had happened up the parade, had to stop. Well, the guy in a Toyota didn't realize it was a parade, so he started driving down the road and he hit Santa Claus.
Oh no!
Oh,
Yeah, Santa Claus fell down. He's on the side of the road. The paramedics were in the parade too, told him not to move. Kids were on the side of the road crying because Santa Claus isn't going to be able to deliver gifts. And he said the paramedics called in, and the dispatcher, that lady, said, Santa Claus got hit by a Toyota in Tickfall. That was like, and all they could say was, repeat that, please. So it was an interesting event. So, yeah, there's little towns like that have some strange stuff that can happen.
Sounds like a Rankin Bass special that went horribly wrong somewhere.
Yes, that was it.
indeed.
That was it. Now, I used to do puppets and stuff. I had a human hand puppet I would do, and I would actually had an outfit I'd put around, and yes, they do get hot. I'm about 6'2" when I stand up straight, but my puppet was only like 4 feet tall. I would just kind of scrunch down and put the outfit around me, and I would kind of scoot along with my feet. I couldn't see a thing. People had to direct me, and his name was Ruggy. He looked like a rug. He was an orange. He kind of, think of Cookie Monster but with orange. That similar design and everything, but it's been so long. I know I've got the puppet here. I haven't pulled him out in years. I don't think I'm so old now. I don't think I could bend down and get back up anymore in it. So.
Well, Gojitron, do you have any kind of weird festivals in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, there's a parade in a small town near me called the Ancients and Horribles Parade. And there's the Badger puppet making an appearance.
Yeah, see the Badger puppet, yep.
Hey, Badger!
The Ancients and Horribles Parade, where they just kind of dress up in costumes and make these weird floats and things like that. I've never been, but it's a thing here, yeah.
Oh,
I think it was lampooned on an episode of Family Guy one time because, I'm in Rhode Island, so very close to Quahog.
Yeah.
What's always funny to me is as a child in the 90s, all these people would dress up in these costumes. Never cared. I hated Disneyland as a kid. I was probably the only kid who'd be like, can we not? I actually, one time my parents asked me, or said like, we're going to go to Disneyland, and I was 12 or 14, and I actually stayed home with my friend at his parents while my family went to Disneyland. But the only person who would dress up that I would ever approach was Smokey the Bear. Hands down, always had to get a picture with Smokey. So much so that I took a Polaroid picture, and a few years ago at a farmer's market, the Forest Service was there with Smokey, so I ran up to him and got him to sign my Polaroid and got a picture with him. It's,
nice.
It's the only man in a costume or person in a costume who I have respect for, because that's a working mascot.
That's right. Preventing forest fires.
Yeah.
Prevent forest fires.
Yeah.
Well, I will beat you with my claws.
That's right.
Well, actually, Smokey's got a shovel.
Yeah.
I bet that thing hurts.
Yeah.
Smokey had like a whole backstory that's like he was a little cub that was found after a forest fire.
That's a true story, Largo. That's a true story. That cub was found after a forest fire. His little paws were singed and burned, and they nursed him back to health, and he became I think he became an attraction at the Chicago Zoo up until his death.
Wow.
The real Smokey Bear.
Didn't know that.
Truth is stranger than fiction sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of people in costumes, back around 78, I think, when they used to have costume characters appear at the malls, went to the mall to see Spider-Man, Captain America, and the Incredible Hulk. So you had a couple of guys dressed up as Spider-Man and Captain America. It didn't look very heroic. The Incredible Hulk was an inflatable costume that looked ridiculous. It was just one of these big balloons, and during the appearance, it deflated. So you had all these kids traumatized by the Incredible Hulk just kind of shrinking and deflating in the middle of the appearance. It was pretty bad.
Well, that reminds me of a story my brother told. I don't know where they went, but they had a Spider-Man there in costume, and he was running around, and apparently the leotard is really, 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 really tight. And this guy was not wearing any kind of cup or anything like that.
Hmm.
So, he said Spider-Man's junk was quite visible through that costume.
Oh, that's an
Did,
image.
did Captain America look like that Captain America from the '90s movie?
Red Brown.
Probably a little worse.
Red Brown, yeah.
Or was he a scrawny dude like me? He was just like, yeah, I'm a big Captain America guy.
I will say this: the closest I've ever come to wearing something or buying something, I guess, Doctor Who made me fall in love with hats. I almost tried to wear this hat tonight,
Well,
but I couldn't. I couldn't get my hat on my head. I bought this in high school.
a Tom Baker fedora.
Yeah, it's gray though, so it's not the reddish brown that he had.
Well,
But I didn't care. It was nice.
the thing about it was, the John Nathan Turner, when he took the show over, he was big upon the characters wearing what he called a uniform.
Yeah.
This was around the time that Tegan showed up wearing her air hostess outfit, and you had Adric wearing his pajamas, and then you had the other little girl. I forget her name now. Nissa, yeah, she had on the costume from Trocken, and then
Right.
that's about the it was during Romana's era with him. That's when he had changed his costume to that burgundy coat. The scarf became
Right.
kind of burgundy, and his hat became burgundy. So he wore that all the time. And I used to think to myself, gosh, it must stink in the TARDIS. These people wearing the same clothes day after day after day after day.
It's like the Scooby Gang riding around the mystery machine all that time with the same clothes on.
Yeah.
Must get a little
Yeah,
funky
well.
in there.
Now, well, it probably had that pungent odor that's unlike any other, if you know what I mean, kind of smoky.
Oh, you mean Scooby snacks?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Indeed.
they ate the Scooby snacks after partaking because they had the munchies. Melvor in the house. Hey, Melvor, good to see Groundhog Day last night at the local theater. Oh, wow, you saw it at the theater, Melvor. That's pretty
Wow.
cool.
That's nice.
I haven't seen Groundhog Day in the movie theater since when it first came out at the movie theaters.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
not really a movie goer, so yeah, I didn't see it in the theater.
Yeah, I've probably got some groundhog pictures, but I do have a little show and tell. I thought I'd pop up if you can pull that up, Bill. I'm not sure how to pull that up around.
Yeah,
the
let
chat.
me. Live chat. I'm going to take y'all off the screen for just a minute so that our buddy can show his show and tell here. So I'm going to get that overlay off so that it's not covering everybody up.
Okay.
And we'll bring this into the stream here and
Yeah.
let you talk all about it.
People
man.
often, indeed, I often talk about the perils of driving the streets here, and this, although you would consider this to be a pig or cerdo in Spanish, this is actually a pedestrian. This is on the literal side of the road this morning as I was driving my stepson to school. They just kind of wander. People
Was
let
it
them
more
loose
than
in the
just
morning.
that one, Largo? Was it like a whole little herd of little piggies running up and down the road?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's see if I can pull up the
Somebody's
next
fence
picture
got
here.
broke.
There was 2 or 3 of them. I caught 2 of them on camera, and they're just rooting around looking for whatever they can. And this is not an uncommon occurrence. This happens pretty regularly. It's either pigs or chickens or dogs. And if I'm not dodging those, I'm dodging crazy guys in those little tuk-tuk 3-wheeled taxis.
Oh,
So,
Wow.
This is the adventures of driving in Guatemala.
No leash laws for your pigs
So-
down there, huh?
No leash laws, no. It would be nice if they did. But yeah, it's tough. I have to be cautious when I try to take my dogs out for a walk because I literally don't know what I'm going to encounter. So it's a challenge.
Now here's
And
the
of course,
important
you know,
question:
dogs.
when you hit one of them, do laws let you take it home?
Well,
when you
it's
hit
kind of one
them,
of
the
those
police
things
officer
here.
probably gets mad at you. You're hitting my pig.
Well, it's like, yeah, the thing is, they let them loose, and if they wander home, great. If they don't make it home, well, you know, it's kind
I
of
mean,
like if the cop didn't see it, it didn't happen. So you just load it in the truck and take it on home and cook it up.
I mean, they're not expensive to get, young pigs. You just let them forage themselves. They grow fat. You make some money, or you eat them. So if you lose one or two, I mean, it's just part of the cost of raising them.
Yeah, it's kind of a law of averages thing. It's just the weirdest thing here that people just let their animals roam free during the day.
I can tell you guys this: down here where I live at, we got wild ones, and they're a nuisance, and they're always in season. So if you see one, you can kill it anytime you want to, because like I said, they're a nuisance animal. But wild pigs, wild boars, they're dangerous. They'll kill you.
Yeah,
They will
they are.
slice you flat open. They will gut you.
Yeah, they haven't made their way this far west. I know, like around Texas, they sort of stop, but I've seen images of how big they are. I couldn't imagine them coming out to this part of the country. But we've got we have a lot of predators up here. They may not make it so far.
They're very invasive. Very invasive. So I don't know. I don't know how far they range as far as the weather goes, whether they go all the way up that far. But I know that down here they're bad.
Yeah, I just
And we got
yeah, I thought
here in the chat.
So let me ask you then a question.
He
Since
tried to call me, I tried to answer it, but I didn't make it.
so, speaking of people owning pigs, what's the strangest, or have you owned any pet other than a cat or a dog? Because I can tell you, I once owned a crawdad. Found him by a lake as a kid and decided he's coming home with me, and grew him to be a pretty decent sized crawdad. And then I took him, released him back into the lake about a year and a half later. But anyone else have a pet that wasn't standard?
When I lived down in Harvey, Louisiana, crawdads were pretty prevalent, especially when there was flooding that would happen every now and then. They just kind of be everywhere. The most exotic animal we ever had, it wasn't mine personally, but my mother, as a kid, had a spider monkey that her dad had gotten her. And
those things are dangerous.
Yeah, and it was mean. And he lived to be pretty old after she gotten married and moved out. The monkey was still living at my grandparents' house for many years. Other than that, personally, the most exotic thing I ever had was a ferret, and they're actually pretty smart.
Mm-hmm.
They're interesting.
I was told by my boss some years ago, because I love ferrets and I wanted a couple of them. This was before I got Lucy, my former dog. And my boss looked me in the eyes and said, "If you get a ferret or a couple of ferrets, you will never get a girlfriend." Joke's on her. I still don't have one, so I might as well just get some ferrets.
Fair enough.
All right then. Well, you're talking about strange, unusual pets. I'll show you what I had. I had it was a hermit crab, but I actually got this from the Trans Science Corporation. I don't have it anymore. Of course, that was so many years ago, but I do have the crate that he came in.
Crazy crabs. Wow.
It says
did they
Jim
actually send
Moran
a live?
Yeah,
they had a live critter in there.
Yeah, this came in a mailer, of course, surrounded by packing material, and inside this little crazy crab crate was a little hermit crab. And it was an idea that the same guy, Harold von Braunhut, who did sea monkeys, I guess Jim Moran was somebody that he teamed up with to come up with this idea of selling hermit crabs and rebranding them as crazy crabs. And of course, they had a line of products that you could buy extra shell, so when they got bigger, they could come out of the shell and move into another shell, and aquariums to keep them in, and food to feed them. But on the art on the little thing is what I found so humorous. Like this one here, it says used for crab carrying only, and you can see the little crab here busting out the side of the crate down here at the bottom. And on the side it says handle with love, live pets, and you can see the little crab here peeking out of the hole. And then on the other side it says Buster is a crab, and take a crab to lunch, but don't eat him, and do not drop. So, and of course, this is a crazy crab crate, and
Looks like the inspiration for not goblins,
Boglins.
boglins.
Boglins. I don't know, but this was probably what 1976, 75, 76 when these came out.
Mm.
And I thought, when you brought up the idea of strange critters as pets, this just came to mind. I
It's
just thought
amazing
that
how
out.
many fish I could kill, but I couldn't kill a crawdad. That thing would live on its own for as long as it wanted to.
Yes, they
Yeah,
are.
We eat
They're,
them. We eat them here. We first you got to purge them real good. Once you get them good and purged, they're crawling around in that nice clean water now instead of the dirty water after you purged them. You get
I was
that.
gonna say, yeah,
You get the
crawdads,
water boiling. Get
lobsters,
the water
and
boiling. Get all them spices in there. You get corn on the cob and some of them taters in there. Maybe some mushrooms. All them spices boiling, and then you just dump them critters right on in there.
they're distantly related to cockroaches. So remember that the next time you go to Red Lobster.
Oh yeah,
They're basically the cockroaches of the sea.
yeah.
That
My
was unnecessary, Largo.
I don't make the facts; I just report them.
But they're delicious cockroaches.
Yeah,
Indeed.
exactly.
Yeah.
I like them too.
Good with butter.
They're yum. Sergeant Slaughter, hey, what's going on, Zazel? Good to see you. Howdy, legends. Happy birthday, Largo, he says.
oh,
That's
I didn't
right.
know it was
Happy
your
birthday,
birthday.
Largo.
I didn't know it was your
Uh,
birthday there. Happy birthday, man.
Well, thank you. Groundhog Day. Yesterday
Oh.
was my birthday. So,
All right. So did you see your shadow when you on your birthday? Is that it? Do you?
That's it. That's probably why it rained today. I
Oh.
saw Bill Murray. That was
Oh,
as close
okay.
as I got. I
All
watched.
right.
I watched Groundhog Day. That's my thing. And
That's
I played
one of
with
those
the
classic
Valorverse
movies
Series
that
3
doesn't
girls.
deserve to have a sequel because it says all it had to say there. Let's see who we got. Somebody new here in the house. DWR 71279. Hello. Good to see you.
Hello.
Glad you're
So,
here.
Largo, what is Pandora doing behind you? Is she doing squats?
She is. She is quite flexible.
She's just down on like a squat position, like I'm gonna have the strongest legs ever.
She's crouching. She is.
Oh.
She's crouching to get ready to pounce. Actually, I
Oh.
was just playing with the. These are very, very flexible. They're very super articulated. So I was just trying some different poses, and that's just the one she ended up in before we started the broadcast. So
Yeah, I did squats last week, and I'm still feeling them.
oh yeah, that's it's good
Pandora
exercise.
is not squatting. She's just
Oh,
ready to
you're-
kill someone.
That's right. She's pouncing.
So, Largo, when you see your shadow, it's 6 more weeks of action for us, right?
That's right.
Is that how that
That's
works?
it exactly.
My only regret is I did not pick up Kill Switch, and I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna be able to get one now because they're sold out like hotcakes.
You
Well,
might try Big
Valorverse has
Bad
it, I
Toy
think.
Store. If Valorverse is out of stock, I think Big Bad still has a few.
Well,
It's
I think
definitely worth
Valorverse
picking up.
has her, but I'm just not down for paying $8 for shipping. But I might have to.
She is she is really well done. The head sculpt is really nice. I'm gonna get on my camera there. She's impressive. Actually, I'll pull up the slideshow again. I've got a couple pictures here. It'd be easier to see
All right.
if I can do that.
And while you're doing that, I would just like to thank my wrenches who are in the chat taking care of business. Thank you so very much. Not that any of my dear viewers would ever think of doing this, but if you come in here and clown in my chat, I got some folks with some heavy band hammers.
Indeed. That does happen on occasion, unfortunately.
Speaking of clowns who are going to cause you trouble, I see a grindhead in the chat.
Oh,
Grindhead's
yeah,
actually wielding the hammer tonight, and he's doing a very good job of it. So thank you so much, Grindhead. And he says he can confirm Valaverse has kill switch in stock.
Yep.
Cool.
I was just hoping to save a little on shipping. That's just me being selfish.
All right, there you go, Largo. Have at it, my man.
Oh. There's my spirit animal. Was he eating a dandelion? I'm not sure.
He got to it before you did, didn't he, Bjorn? And Ian Sweeney's in the house. Hey, Ian, good to see you, sir. Speaking of grindhead, Jim, you've got a small parcel of mail coming your way. It got dropped in the box a couple of days ago, so please let me know when you get that. Thank you, sir.
All right. Oh,
Largo, have you ever seen the? I don't know how closely they're related. Have you seen the larger cousin, the marmot?
I have actually. They're very similar. They're in the same family.
They're bigger
Try it
and they
again.
yell at you for a solid hour if you don't leave their rock alone.
We
they're
have
very
somebody. We
territorial.
have somebody else. We have somebody else that just showed up in the green room. He asked me to bring him on. He had something he wanted to say, so I'm going to bring him in and let him have his little say here. So everybody say hello to our buddy Rolo. What's going on,
Hey,
Rolo?
Rolo.
It's so nice that you bring me in at the point where somebody says he's yelling at you for an hour. Okay, I'm gonna yell at you for an hour.
Oh, I was
Well,
talking about a small creature
know.
that lives in the mountains.
I know, my friend. It's just a funny thing. So the thing that I'm here for is that I've been on the flea market last Sunday, and I found a couple of things there. They were inexpensive, but I just don't have any knowledge about these pieces. And you are guys here. There is the history of modern toy pop culture history. I have some really rare pieces, some less rare pieces, but all of the pieces, I need some information. I need some help from you. So what do you want to start with?
I don't have any clue what you've got there with, so Rolo. So reach down there and grab
So
something. And
let's
put it
start.
on
Yeah,
screen.
let's start out with an easy question. So my first question would be: is that a turd, or is
No,
that
that's ET.
or is that ET?
That's ET.
That's ET.
That's ET. Okay. Next.
That's inflatable plastic from the 80s here in Mexico. I really like this piece because I like rare pieces. And then I found this guy who's really, I don't know. He reminds me on all and everything, but I just don't know what it is, who he is, who is that.
We need better lighting, but it just looks like a generic.
You need better light. You need better lighting. You get what you need. You're just a boss, aren't you? There you go. Better
All right,
lighting.
Dojutron, I'm gonna throw that at you because that just looks like a generic robot to me.
Yeah, he does.
Does look a little reminiscent of the robot that was in that.
Goji, your mic's
Tom-
muted, bud.
Sorry, yeah, he looks like a generic robot, but he kind of reminds me of the Rogun robot from the '80s. You guys remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was
That's
marketed
what I
as a
was
GoBot.
thinking of. That one that changed into a gun, cap
Yeah.
gun, little big rifle things. Yeah.
It
Yeah, the
has a
head looks
lot
like
of
that.
details, right? And it's like the same is happening to me. It reminds me on all and nothing, right?
Is it
So
a
it
is it
has
a is it a bank?
Well,
No.
yeah. Is it hollow plastic? Is it hollow?
yeah,
Injection molded?
it's hollow plastic. It's also a piece from the '80s. So, but I just
And
found it.
of course, it's
and-
a bootleg, so it has no copyright information whatsoever on it anywhere.
It has the blowhole. Isn't that something?
Well, of course, injection molded. All right, what we got next there, Rolo?
What we got next there that I really don't know. I know who it is. He has a license. He has a license stamp on the feed. But I want to know a little bit more about the figure if possible, because I don't know nothing about the figure. My guess is that this is Aquaman.
Yeah,
It
That
he's
is
from,
Aquaman.
that's the
Brave
one
and the
that was
Bold,
in
wasn't it?
Brave and the Bold. Yeah,
He has that action figure here on the back
Yeah.
that's still functioning. I don't
There
know.
should be some holes on him where he can put stuff attached to him. No, that looks like a Happy Meal toy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
looks
think
like
so.
it looks like a Happy Meal toy. Yeah,
So,
that's a Brave
Is
and the
it
Bold.
is it old? Is it young? Is it
mid
What?
2000s.
Yeah, mid
Yeah.
2000s.
so
I was
it's
gonna
not
say
it's
this
not that
century.
old. It's not that old
No, there
because
was
it
a
has that
cartoon show
painting.
called The Brave and the Bold where Batman would team up with other members of the DC universe.
All right, all
Very
right, all
reminiscent
right.
of the old comic book, of course, and it had its own cartoon style to it, and it was pretty decent, I thought. Didn't you think, Gojatron?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was
Yeah,
a love letter
and
to the Silver Age. That's what that was.
it was, and about that time they also did promotions there with the fast food restaurants like McDonald's, and I think that
Right.
was probably a kid meal toy.
So I got 3 more pieces to show to you, and the last piece will leave up the whole. I hope the whole panel here and the whole chat here with a question, and I hope I get an answer. But the first
All
piece
right.
that I picked up here is. It reminds me a lot of the slime pit. I know it's not from the slime pit because it has a metal stamp from 2013 here, and if you push that certain button, it opens up that mouse. Does anybody you
Is that
know
the
anything
2000X version of the slime pit there, Goji, you think?
I don't know. Rolo said 2013, so that was
Yes,
quite a
that's
bit of
the-
time
that's-
after that.
That's the stamp that it has here.
Or is
It
that
has-
another product, not Masters of the Universe, but maybe another product from a different toy line?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I definitely will use it for the diorama. No,
Badger, you got any idea about that?
Who makes
No, I didn't-
the Imaginext toys?
Yeah, I didn't collect Motu.
Mattel.
Yeah, that's Mattel.
that's
I think
Mattel. Yeah, that's Mattel.
I think that's from a Ra's al Ghul pit kind of
Oh,
plaything
like that's the
from
Lazarus
Imaginext.
pit?
Lazarus Pit.
Might be.
It has these signs there on these exclamation marks, let's say, vice versa, above and below that you have to push it, and then it opens the mouth.
It
and then
is.
it has
So
the
it's a
pit.
Fisher Price Imaginext Lazarus pit, and it came with
Oh, wow.
Batman and Ra's al Ghul.
Okay, so that's relatively new there, Rolo.
Yeah,
And
they
it's a Fisher Price Imaginext Lazarus pit for
But
It's a
Batman.
nice
see,
piece, though.
So the
Yeah.
stamp says it's 2013 here,
That's about right.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
So it's
I've really liked the Imaginext stuff. They are doing some great play sets and little figures and things.
Jesse, did you Google that?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
cool.
that was still in the pieces. I tell you, I found that stand that had three figures for 10 pesos. So that was there. There's another bigger piece that I.
Hang on for a minute, Rolo. I'm gonna ask Jesse some more questions about this piece. So I'm assuming that you got your browser window open there, and you're using your favorite search engine, whatever that may be, and you found pictures of this. How complete is what Rolo has here? What actually
Half
came with this?
complete, right? Yeah.
So there is a. It looks like the body is all there, but that the pit should be green, and it might be a plastic overlay that slots into that pit.
Exactly. There's 4 holes here at the
Yeah.
side of this.
It's
of the
molded
pitch.
exactly like the pit, but it's this thin piece of green plastic that fits over it, and then it comes with slime. So I think the plastic is to keep the slime from touching the rest of the playset.
So, but where you're supposed to be to put the
luck with
slime?
that.
Exactly.
I
But
think
I'm
the slime just goes into the pit because the whole idea is the pit is just there.
Yeah,
For them to go
it doesn't
into.
drip out of the mouth or anything, Rollo. It's just you put
Oh.
the slime in the pit.
Nope, I found
Yeah,
another
well-
image. It does come out of the mouth,
Okay, it does. Okay, all right.
but I don't know. Oh, the head can open. There's a right where the brow is.
All right, you're right. I see.
You fill it up with the slime, and then you open it up and
All
dump it on
right,
figures
so
below.
Screws out. And,
It's a real nice It's a real nice feature.
And then the
Yeah.
plastic part is to catch all the slime, so you could just
Yeah, I see it
Move it up,
here.
move
There's
it out.
yeah.
did
I
it come
see.
with any figures like maybe a Ra's al Ghul figure and maybe a Batman or something?
It comes
Well,
with
I-
a Batman and a Ra's al Ghul with 2 swords.
Okay, all right.
Wow.
So you're missing the little plastic piece that goes in the pit to hold the slime, and you're missing the 2 figures that go with it there. Rollo.
Anyway, I'm gonna repaint it a little and use it as a feature for my Masters of the Universe
Absolutely.
panorama. My slime pit I already have built here in the back, so it's just gonna be like the entrance to the Snake Man's world for me. So let's but it's nice to know this about this piece because I did absolutely know nothing about this piece.
It looks
there's,
like Grindhead found that they're going for like cheapest he's found like $60. So
Wow, so they're going up in value. So it may
No,
be
wasn't-
worthwhile to hang on to that there, Rollo.
it was one of the 3 for 10 pesos. 3 for 10 pesos. So
you got it
was
for a
not-
lot less than $60.
Yeah, absolutely. 10 pesos is probably less than what $10.
So I got yeah, you know my budget, so I'm pretty weird about that. So this I just picked up because it's kind of weird, and I don't know nothing about this personality. There's figures, but it has functioning cars as feet, and
It's
I
like the
thought
60.
Oh,
foot
she's
tall
from
woman.
Monsters versus Aliens.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
Monsters
right.
All
versus
right.
aliens.
That's
There you
all
go.
right.
So you came to the right place to
I
find out.
cannot
what it
remember her
was.
name now, but she was
Gig-
played by Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, Gigantica or something like that.
Gigantica, yeah, something like that. Yeah. She used
Also-
cars in one of the scenes as roller skates. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I found Grindhead Jim, but it's just to be mentioned there.
All right.
I didn't know Grindhead Jim had an action figure. Well, I guess we find out new things every day, huh? Gojitron.
I think it's more of an
Looks like-
in-action figure, but
Yeah. Look.
Yeah, it's kind
Looks
of.
suspiciously like Yosemite Sam there a little bit.
Well, so does Grindhead Jim.
So I could show you the key figure that will leave you with the question, or do you want to see one more piece that I found on that table?
Whatever you want to do.
Panel. What do y'all want to see?
Whatever
You
you
can just
want
show
to
us
do.
that piece.
Oh, that's Mario winking at us. A Mario ball.
Yeah.
That's from the. We had those in the 90s, but that might be a newer version of it.
Is
It's
that
a
open
2000
up, Rollo,
yeah,
or is
it's
it just
it's a
ball?
2007 version. It's Nintendo original.
Is it
And
like that
was
foam
on the same
football
table.
material?
Yeah, like it's a squeezy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Like a mad ball.
Like a stretch
yeah. It's
ball.
like a mad ball. It's like exactly like a mad ball.
Hmm.
Was on the same table.
it's a me. It's a Mario.
Mario, it's me.
Well, all right there. That was very interesting there, Rollo. Thanks for showing us that.
Yeah, and then I want to confront you with a new piece of the Mexican bootleg market, and I want to also leave you with that discussion here. I want to leave you with the discussion. Do you think that this is legit? Do you think that is just a knockoff? Do you think that it has any special about it? What is your general opinion between originals and and bootlegs because I found this little guy here, and he even comes with real chains here and effects. He has the light effect here on the back and
Oh,
stuff. He has
Hey, Rolo.
the
Now that it's
three
good
point
that Rolo,
articulation.
Rolo. It's good that you're on the channel. Our friend OBS, Ocean Breed Salty, is in the chat down there, and she has informed me by email that she has some posters coming your way.
Ooh. I will answer with a postcard if you allow me, OBS. Thank you so much. I'm look at this guy. So it opens even up the jaws, right? So
Wow.
look at this guy. So and I want to leave you with impressions, having the light effects and having the real chain, right?
Uh-huh.
That I just want to point out, right? Real chains on that, and having, yeah, I don't even want to mention the price point. I just want to, I would just want to start it this discussion. I just want to start the discussion: bootleg, vice versus original. Quality these days, is it a knockoff or is it something original? What do you think? That is the question that I want to drop, and that's where the 5 minutes that I want to take
I
of my
think if it
fame.
doesn't have an alternative Nicolas Cage head, it has no value.
Okay, Jesse, that's your opinion, sir.
I've always looked at
You're entitled.
bootleg.
You're entitled to your opinion, there, Badger.
Yeah, I was a weird kid that looked at bootlegs and knockoffs as being two different things. For me, a knockoff would be like the Leonard, the core action figures. They were a knockoff of G.I. Joe, but they were their own stuff. You know, they were their own thing. But a bootleg is literally trying to be the actual thing. You know, trying to they'll make a Batman figure and and give it some odd name to it. You could tell it's Batman. You could say it'd be Bat Person or something. Like
The
there's
Flittermaus.
yeah, there's picture I love that goes around the internet of a Superman on card. You could tell it's Superman, but the name on top of it is Special Man, so it just doesn't really carry the same.
Well,
But
that's the kind of stuff that's hilarious about
Uh-huh.
bootlegs that makes me just love them to death. Or you see a carded set of figures, and
Yeah,
it says the superheroes or something generic at the top, and you'll see Spider-Man along with Batman and Superman,
Lightning McQueen.
the whole,
Right.
you
Yeah,
just mixed all up in there. They don't give a damn
any of
whether
them.
whether they belong together or not.
I found I think it was in years ago when the only way you could get toy information was like Tomart's Action Figure Digest or something. I
Yeah.
read an article that described why bootlegs even exist as opposed to the actual toys. There are areas of the world where if you tried to
Yeah.
buy a legitimate Batman action figure, you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to afford it. It's just too expensive.
Yeah, you're gonna spend half or full of your mensual salary, and this is the
Right.
case here in
Yeah.
Mexico, right?
Right.
This
And
is the
so
case.
Well, that's
so
why you
they
have
will-
companies like Fun School, or
Oh.
Funk School. I forgot
Yeah.
which
Fun
one. it
School
is.
in India.
Yeah, in India and alternatives in
Right.
Russia, where they have to produce them at that cheaper price point, or they can't get them.
Right.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't work. Now I've
And
kind of
what's interesting about these bootlegs and knockoff toys from all over the world is they sell for pennies where they originate from. Yet here in the United States, there are collectors that will pay top dollar for these items.
yes, I've seen that. And I remember back in the '80s going to toy aisles and stuff, and you'd see knockoff Transformers on the shelf and
Oh
everything.
yeah, the dollar store toys
Yeah.
were the notorious grandma toys.
Yeah, and
So
they are
grandma goes to the dollar store and she sees knockoff He-Man figures and she says, "Well, little Junior loves these He-Man figures. I'll buy these for him for his birthday. And then
Yeah.
you think you're getting a He-Man figure from Grandma, and you open it up, it's like,
Yeah, Sunman or one of those oddballs from that time. Yeah,
and not to knock them off, because now look, Sunman's now actually part of the
yes,
Masters Universe line.
yeah, right.
And look at what the prices for the Warlord figures and the Galaxy Warriors figures and the Pirates of the Galaxies and
Yeah, say it, Dragon
Warrior
Riders
Beast.
of
Well,
the
that stuff is
Styx.
going
Yeah,
big bucks on if you get a complete figure.
right. That line that we used to sell for like $1, Dragon Riders of the Styx or something. I think that was the name of it.
I
Little
remember
3
those.
3/4 inch figures, and they were they're now, I can't afford them, so oh well. So
Yeah.
Bjorn Jorgensen says dollar store toys are more durable than NECA. Sticks of chalk are more durable than NECA.
yeah,
Bjorn.
the dollar store figures.
Yeah, but they don't cost $60, Bill.
Right.
So
Well,
please.
wet toilet paper is more durable than NECA, says Ian Sweeney, and he's not wrong either. Okay.
Yeah.
I know
The-
right now, but if it comes to NECA and me, I know it's more than 18 months ago. It's almost 2 years ago, but they sent me that Ming, and I'm still not over it. I'm not sure if I ever come to the point to come over it to send me something at that price point in this kind of state. I'm trying to work on. I have an appointment next month
All right.
with my
I'll admit
psychologist.
it. I'll admit it. I went to the Target over Christmas, or right before Christmas, and I saw the Flash Gordon and the Ming and the
They're
Phantom
cool. They're cool.
they look great, but I still haven't taken them out of their packages, and probably won't ever, for fear that as soon as I open that bubble up, they're gonna just fall into pieces.
And don't have cats, dogs, kids, or anything that vibrates like cars or stuff around your house, please.
Trains. I got a train that goes by.
Don't have
twice a
trees.
year.
Trees are growing. Maybe it will fall down, right? Now, don't do that.
The
I
advantage.
did open up the Phantom from that original superheroes line, and I was pleasantly surprised about the quality.
I've
It
heard
was
NECA
really good.
has
Has it
improved.
improved, Coach? You got that's interesting.
I mean,
So you
that
actually
particular
opened yours.
figure was good,
And-
but I know there are
Made it
other
for
lines
him.
like the animated Ninja Turtles line that are still having a lot of problems.
Yeah, I think
So-
it was. I can't remember if it was Michael on Retro Blasting or one of them saying that the NECA figures have improved. They have gotten better, but I still haven't bought any of them.
This one is a good one.
Yeah,
Well,
They're like stormtroopers.
We all know how Grindhead feels about NECA. He says NECA figures have a special disintegration feature. So disintegration is a feature of NECA.
oh okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
the
like
Some of their
biodegradable.
older ones, like the Aliens
Now,
and the
I have-
Predators, were notorious
Yeah.
for that.
I've been a little hesitant. I have bought one. I haven't opened it yet. Third-party Transformers and stuff like that.
Oh,
Bobby
yeah.
Valla did a really good description of his thought on third-party stuff. It is skirting the line between copyright infringement and not. I mean, it is really, really skirting it.
Yes.
And that is something that I've told several people I work with and everything that I see only 3 times when Hasbro may go after these guys. One of them would be if just to do it, but I don't think they're going to do it. It's too much money for the little bit they're going to get out of it. The other one is if one of those third parties actually starts making more money than Hasbro does on a particular line. Let's say Stan Solo one year, he makes $1 million on Star Wars third party stuff he makes, but Hasbro is they're losing money on it. They may say, okay, he's stolen our customers here, and they may go after him. But the third one is the one that I've actually seen things happen like this, where grandma or some relative of so and so goes online to buy a toy for their kid, They know nothing about it. They buy them the kid. They show the kid, "Is this what you
All
want?"
right.
Yeah, that's what I want. And it's one of these high dollar third parties, and the parent knows nothing about it, buys it for the kid, gives it to the kid, and the kid is injured off of it. It breaks, something happens, and the parent being like, "Well, I'm going to sue," and they decide to sue. Well, the lawyer discovers it's a third party. Uh, Hasbro is brought into it anyway because they're told, "Well, you could have stopped this before it happened, and now we have a kid with a lifelong injury. Think of the children." And Hasbro will be
Uh-huh.
like, "Okay, we're going to stop this now because now we're dealing with a lawsuit that we weren't planning on." Now, they used to, during the Hasbro conventions, from what I understand, at one time when Hasbro bought them, I bought out the BotCon. They banned all third-party stuff from being there at all. They didn't want any of it. Well,
Well,
there
of course
was,
not.
oh yeah, but then there was this thing that allowed parts or third-party creations that add on to other Transformers, existing Transformer toys. Like I've got my Titan Return 6-shot over here, and I bought a new head and a new gun set for him that some third party guy created because the guns that came with that Titan's return thing were terrible. And but it they said that's okay. That's the equivalent of a company making a spoiler for your car,
Yeah.
something different. It's you have to buy the vehicle first. You have to buy the thing first, and that. But the third party stuff in its particular, I'm seeing that there's just so many times you could say it's not Megatron, and people are going to say that's Megatron. And but I'd also say that with Hasbro having other problems right now with quality issues and I think their overhead's too high, and there's some other issues that they have.
Well, didn't we hear recently that there's going to be some big layoffs, or they've already started firing people over there?
Yeah, but I have a feeling it's not the people that need to be laid off; it's the people at the bottom
Of
that
course.
will be laid off. Uh, I will
The,
say this: I have encountered what I consider to be an epidemic of inept leadership. That they have hundreds of administrators that are doing pretty much the same thing everybody else does, and moving their IPs
all
around.
major corporations have two principles going on. One of them is the Peter principle, and the other one is the Dilbert principle.
Hmm, I haven't
And of
heard
course,
that one.
I think with
you haven't
third
heard
party,
the Dilbert principle. The Dilbert principle is that those who can do the work will never get put into management because they can actually do the work. Those that
Right.
can't do the work are always promoted into management to get them out of the way, so the people that can do the work can continue to do their work.
No, that makes sense. I've actually encountered I've only been at my new job here for about 7 months now. I used to work at another educational institution. I've been there for almost 20 years, and they got new leadership, and everything I was doing was being outsourced. And I'm like, I'm able to do all this. Why are you guys outsourcing it all? And oh, we still want to do. And I was like, I need to find someplace else. But anyway,
Uh-huh.
that
Sounds
they
awful familiar.
yeah, it was. So here's my take on it, and I don't have any other than several years in manufacturing and stuff. My thought is why Hasbro keeps raising their prices, why they're having such a thing. I think they're trying to get a profit within a certain quarter. And so they're ordering stuff from their factories to get a profit within that quarter, within that area, within maybe 1 or 2 quarters, and then they don't sell it anymore. And so they've done the market research that says stuff like movies and stuff will only sell when the movie's out. That's why the Han Solo stuff was sitting on the shelf. But there's another problem. The Han Solo stuff was too expensive, and the Star Wars stuff was too expensive. You priced kids out of the market. I mean, they
Well,
had
I think action figures have already priced the kids out of the market.
yes,
Mom is willing to pay $5 for a cheap action figure for kiddies, but she's not
hmm
paying $22 for a highly articulated figure for
I agree.
8-year-old.
I agree. And so Hasbro, though they do have other lines, I like going down the Imaginext aisle, and there's Play School stuff on the shelf, which is Hasbro, and they have some reasonable stuff there, and some things that I've seen for several years on the shelf. But gone are the days where they sold the same Millennium Falcon for all the movies. You know, it was there, all the
Yeah.
figures were there. Now, if it doesn't sell within a couple of months, it's gone. You know, it's
Yeah.
within that corner.
Those days are gone anyway because the, the 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 companies don't want the figures to be always on the shelf like they used to be. They just don't want that.
Yeah.
Uh,
There's a thing that I didn't realize until recently that when an item goes on clearance, the manufacturer, like if you see a Hasbro or Mattel toy on clearance, Hasbro and Mattel have agreed to pay part of the cover for what they is being marked down on the shelf. So if it was originally $24, it's marked down to 17. Hasbro's paid a little bit out for it, and
yeah,
I'm
I've
like,
seen that before too.
so they don't like to do that, I guess. So they want to.
Well, here's what we've all heard, and some information on the internet is more reliable than others, but some of it is just common knowledge as well. When an item goes on clearance, that's kind of bad for the SKU itself. You know, that kind of
Yes.
means that they're moving that SKU off of the planogram and to replace it with something else, and they need those items all out of the store. They don't want to store them in the store anymore.
Right.
The
I've been
planograms have to pay for themselves. If there's not a toy, at least one toy off that planogram a week being sold off of that planogram, you're going to see those toys clearanced out awfully soon, and that's not the way it used to be.
right. It's really weird what's happened, and toy lines now only can really exist about 2 years at most. That's why I'm a little concerned about Final Faction. We're going on 2 years now, and in the past few months, they've had more uh, problems than they've had successes, and so I'm a little concerned that they may be running into some issues with their getting stuff sold and everything. But the figures are great and everything, but I don't know if they're really selling that as well as it could be to maintain the line.
Well, look, Melbourne says he wouldn't be surprised if the 3 3/4, 4 inch figure starts to make a comeback due to crazy prices, which reminds me of a time before when this happened, when the larger
Yeah.
figures were phased out for the smaller figures because of prices.
Uh-huh.
But what would now see we're in our second hour here, which is actually our first hour over with, and we're starting to begin to move into hour number two here. So look, and that's when things start to pick up. That's when we start getting deep here at Weird Fantastic Toy Adventures. Now that brings me to a point. I think that toys that are made for adults, which is fine, I have no problem with that. There's a section back there behind where all the electronics are, where all that shit can hang. But the toy aisle for the kids, I think it's going to, over these next few years, is going to revert back to toys that kids are meant to play with, not
I agree.
toys that I want to go and buy. And what I'm talking about is, you've seen them. They're in the dollar store. They're also at Walmart. They sell great to kids. They don't sell to us because that's not what we're looking for. That is the 5 points articulation Marvel figures of Hulk, Spider-Man. I mean, their arms move like this, their legs move like this, and their head
Right.
moves around, and that's not much else. And it's made out of hard, durable plastic, so you can boink those things together and they don't fall apart.
Yeah, a little.
They don't cost much. They cost less than $10 for the most part.
About the small ones are about $5 each. I've seen them. I know what you're talking
And
about.
that's what an action figure was when we were growing up, was it not?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what's going to be on the toy aisle. That's what kids are going to be buying. That's what moms and caregivers, or whatever the hell you want to call them, who go into the store to buy birthday presents and Christmas presents and shut me up presents and all that kind of stuff, are going to be buying.
Agreed.
And the stuff that we want as grown-ups who never grew up, or it's going to be back there behind the electronics, or it's going to be in that little sad section in Walmart over there where the records, DVDs are, or it's going to be all online. Those are going to be the highly articulated action figures that cost $30 for a 7-inch or 6-inch or 5.5-inch figure that has double joints on his elbows and his knees and his crotch and in his waist, and his head can move up and down as well as side to side. Yeah, that's what we want to buy. That's what we're willing to spend all of our hard-earned money for. But kids don't want that shit.
Right. It's the one thing I remember with the little 5-point articulation figure. Yeah, I had GI Joe figures growing up, and they were fun. Okay, I enjoyed playing with them. I actually liked them over the Star Wars figures because they were more posable.
Yeah, they had the joints in their arms and their legs,
Right.
and then eventually they even got the side joints in their arms so you can move
It
their hands
was
like that.
yeah, it was actually, looking back, it was actually easier to play with Star Wars figures than it was a GI Joe figure because you didn't have to fight the for posing and all this kind of stuff. And
Well, let's go back even just a few years earlier than Star Wars, the proto Star Wars. I like to think of it, which was
Adventure People.
Adventure People. Exactly, they had
Yeah.
the same articulation, 5 points of articulation at the shoulders, at the hips, and at the head.
Right.
And what were they meant to do? They
We
weren't
played
really
with.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They were meant to be put into a seating position of some sort to put them into a vehicle, or taken out of the vehicle to stand next to the vehicle, or to boink boink play because they're fighting with one another, or to sit inside of a boat, or to sit inside of some
Yeah.
sort of a weapon, or whatever it was.
That's why.
The figures were an afterthought. It was the
Right.
vehicles that they were selling, and the figures were meant to accentuate or be an accessory for the vehicle, so that the vehicle would have a pilot or a driver.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I like the Imagine X line. All of those. For years, they've just made giant play sets or little vehicles and stuff, and stuck a couple of figures in there, and you're like, here, have this. Hasbro has attempted it again with their was it Star Wars Mission Fleet? Have any of you seen that stuff?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
That
And
little 2.25-inch figure.
Jesse,
first-
you were talking about something similar to that recently on a live stream that you did, weren't you?
Yeah, so I have a few thoughts on this, and we'll start with Mission Fleet. It's very much a kid's toy line. My nephews have it, and I have friends who have kids who collect that line because they're very rugged figures. They only have, I think, 4 points. I don't remember if the neck moves. But they're small, they're bulky, they're like 4 points of articulation. They fit in their vehicles. You can roughhouse with them. And
Right.
if you want to buy Star Wars for your kids today, Mission Fleet is the best line because you can get an X-wing with a Luke in it. You can get you'll get the Snowspeeder. It's just a good rugged line for kids. And my friends who have kids and my nephews, they play with them because it's a genuine kids toy line.
Now, the one thing that I looked at, like the Millennium Falcon that they made, it was almost like the original Falcon. The backside came off, and you had that. The one thing I didn't like about it was, and this is just bad decision, I think, was the cockpit only held one figure. And I've noticed a lot of the fig toys that they would make for Mission Fleet, they put the figure with it. Like there'd be, I think the X-wing fighter came with a little Luke, or a TIE fighter came with Vader, or whoever, or a pilot. And the reason that you would get other figures was that you wanted to fill out your play sets. You know, they were kind of the build-a-figure type thing. So if the Millennium Falcon was made with 2 seats in the cockpit, then that kid's going to be like, hey, I need Chewbacca now. You know,
My only thing I would add to that is, considering the age of my nephews and the other kids who have that line, they're young enough where they're not thinking that far ahead. They can just slam their figure in, their one figure, and go. They're not thinking about going on missions and setting up play sets. It feels like Mission Fleet is for an even younger audience than I think we are typically thinking of as kids. Because with kids, I think we're thinking 8, 10, 12 years old.
Yeah,
By
that's,
then they got the phone in their hand, and they've given up action figures these
Yeah,
days.
Mission Fleet is really for kids who are like 5, 6, 7, who they're only thinking of putting one figure in. They're not thinking of anything
Right.
beyond.
Now,
They,
the-
they don't even watch Star Wars anyway at
The,
that age. They don't even know what
one
Star
that's,
Wars is.
Yeah.
It's too far.
Right.
It's too far behind them.
It's what the way
The
I
one you're
describe
collecting
Mission
now,
Fleet-
Badger, was it Galaxy Squadron something or other? It's got, yeah, those guys. Now those are for slightly older kids, and again, they're good value because you get a space vehicle and a pilot and a few accessories all in one set. Now that one actually has it's got all 4 seats like in the film, right?
right.
The new one
And
does
sound and
So,
lights.
The Galoob one in the 90s only had enough for 1, but the new one
Right.
today has enough for 4.
Wow.
And that new one there is probably significantly bigger as well.
Now the thing that I didn't like about them was that Falcon was $45 sitting on the shelf, and
Well,
Good Lord.
it was 31 on Amazon when
Oh, wow.
they fixed it after
Wow.
2 hours.
Mom isn't buying a $31 toy for a kid. Mom buys $10 toys for kids if it's that big, maybe.
Some-
depending on what
The original-
Sometimes Amazon makes a mistake, and when Amazon makes a
Right.
mistake, you have a window of about 45 minutes to take advantage of it.
yeah,
Right. But
The
the
original
Falcon was
Falcon-
kind of atypical, though. I mean,
So,
it's the
going-
most expensive of the line. The rest
Yeah.
of them are fairly reasonable.
Now,
I
going
think.
back to Mission Fleet, and I'm only speaking for people who are around my age, mid 30s. My friends who are finally having kids. We have a different way of connecting with our kids, I think, because when my friends they buy Minecraft toys for their kids. My friends and I still play Minecraft together, and now they're playing Minecraft with their kids, just like they're buying the Mario toys and the Sonic toys and the Pokemon toys and the Roblox toys, because their kids can play the games at home, sometimes with their parents. Their parents will go to Target and be like, "Oh yeah, I like this guy. Do you want this one?" Like, it's a very different level of interaction that I'm seeing with my generation, because toys are now one part of a multi-part level of playing. It's no longer just toys like it was in the 80s and 90s. Kids now have video games. Now they have other forms of media. Toys are now just one part of that. Just like with my generation growing up, yes, we had movies like you did. Yes, we had music like you did, but we got introduced to games where it became just one step a part of our culture. So when you're buying toys today for kids at our age, we're connecting with our kids through these toys, and a lot of times those video game toys, they're kind of a big hit because it's a way for parents to connect with their kids.
Is that
I
why
can
the
see- I can see that,
Fortnite kind of
yeah,
made that transition? Where
Sorry?
you've got, is that why you see Fortnite making that transition where there's action
Oh
figures
yeah,
that are from the
Kids
Fortnite?
are gonna play 2 to 3 hours a day of Fortnite, and then they go to Target, and the parents want them to play with toys, and they'll be like, "Oh, and I hear parents say the names of the characters, like Beef Boss, and I don't play the game. I just through osmosis I know the names, but like, oh, here's that new Beef Boss toy with his vehicle, and the kid will be like, "Yeah, I want that one," or "I want the tomato head guy. I don't know his name." But it's a very different level of interaction where the parents understand what the kids are saying to them, because these are kids like me who grew up with toy lines, and so we know names and backstories and things, and now we can transmute that to our kids who are like, "I want this figure," and a parent would be like, "I know exactly what you're talking about."
So you think parents today are more toy savvy because of the way we grew up with toys
Oh, we
compared to the way
were.
our parents did?
I can't speak for your generation, but in the 90s, oh boy, we were so heavily targeted. We were, I would almost say, like, we were abused with marketing.
Oh yeah, I can
It
tell you
was-
this:
Yeah.
today, these companies, are living off of us from the '80s. We are still hooked on all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
Same for the 90s.
yeah, the movies are all from what we grew up with. The toys are back again in there.
Right.
That's
what Grindhead calls the nostalgia tax.
Yeah. So my
Right.
father is trying to think of age. He was born 1950, so he's well into his 70s. he has no clue about this. He was your standard man working in the 80s or in the early 90s. He was your standard dude who was just going to work, coming home, watching football. Didn't have any idea of what society. I'm trying to think of pop culture. Didn't know what pop culture was. Didn't have any reason to. My generation, we were like spoon fed it every day on television and media.
Right.
So now when we have kids, we are into pop culture already. So we are following our children going into pop culture. My dad has no clue about anything I talk about because his generation didn't have access to that. Or, he's from a rural part of California, so he would never have access. I can't speak of someone who was his age in like Chicago or New York or something.
I can speak to my dad. My dad probably would be very ashamed of me. Why the hell are you playing with goddamn toys when you need to be out working? Because that's all he thought about.
Yeah.
I love my dad, and that is what he thought about. He thought about working and providing for his family and sitting on his ass when he didn't have to work and popping a cold one or something like that. And that in his mind, that's what a man did. Of course, that mindset has changed a little bit over the years. Especially with us Gen Xers, we started it because we were the ones that all that shit was targeted to back in the 70s and the 80s. I mean, we were really, really bombarded. We were the ones that had the most Saturday morning cartoons ever. We had the most lines of toys ever. There were
toys were connected to cartoons. Yeah,
and that happened in the 80s when the rules changed.
Right.
And it really got bad. It sounds to me like in the 90s in Badger's time, because the hook had been set.
Yeah. And my generation is so deep into pop culture. I mean, I feel like I'm behind the kids today, but we were bred into it and molded by it, and now we are just continuing that with kids today. So I think it's that as you said, you're gonna see different toy lines, and I see that today in Target. Parents are taking their kids to that section of Target that's like video game toys, or it's the toys where you can dig for dinosaur bones in the sand. That's real popular now.
Well, that's over there where the chemistry sets or what passes for the chemistry set now is, and the science toys, which those are big in the Target stores, and I'm kind of glad that those toys are over there. But now you're talking about video game toys. Now I'm going to go back here to Bjorn Jorgensen talking about Minecraft. Help me out as an old gentleman who doesn't understand anything when it comes to video games and toys made for video games. All right, I kind of got a small idea of what Minecraft is all about, but the idea of buying toys for this particular video game is so beyond me that maybe you can help me out just a little bit there, Badger.
I mean, there's a few ways I could go with it. I mean, the first off, Minecraft is a pixel-based game. Everything is a pixel. You can mine into it. You build. It's like a world of Legos. So if you come at it from that angle, having a toy line to pair with Minecraft is so one-to-one obvious, because you'll spend an hour building houses and castles in Minecraft. You give them Legos modeled after Minecraft, but unlike Legos, Minecraft the game has like creatures that will attack you and other hazards. So there's a game element to it. But now you get these Lego like items that have little monsters and people, and you're taking what you see on the screen and you're putting it in the tactile toys. And that's why video games and toys are so great to pair with each other. You spend an hour playing Pokemon on your handheld, and then you give a kid a Charizard and a little Squirtle, they're going to go battle with them. It's not that they have to be separate from each other. It's just, this is playtime with this one thing, and now I have playtime with this other thing. And Minecraft
Hang on. I've got a mental image in my head now of a little bitty grindhead Jim knocking some poor old lady on her ass just so he can go after an action figure of Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can also add to that. You were talking about how we pass on to our kids some of the stuff. I have two daughters. Uh, Both of them were they Barbie and My Little Pony, but they knew that Daddy liked Godzilla and Doctor Who, uh, and they didn't really care for Doctor Who. But my youngest daughter has loved Godzilla from since she was a little kid, and she's now in college. She's at Texas A&M. She's in the Corps. She's in the band, and she took her 12-inch Mecha Godzilla with her to her dorm, and she
As
had to
you do.
wait. Yeah, she had to wait until she could. And for Christmas, this past year, Gojatron on his channel commented about these things at Five Below, and I didn't realize that she did this. Last year for Christmas, I reviewed one of my Punch-Out books, and my wife put a TARDIS in the middle of the set. Well, my daughter decided, can you guys see that?
Hang on, I'm gonna make you big. Hang on just a second there.
I see a little Mecha Godzilla in the middle there.
Yeah, she, my daughter decided in my little paper model nativity to put Mecha Godzilla, and that there's the Godzilla figure right there.
Is he
And
eating
then-
the sheep?
I guess so. I'm not sure.
He looks like he's about to chair bash a sheep on the Godzilla's head.
Yeah, he's doing that, and King Kong is hanging from up here. So
I see
So-
him.
so the nativity got a little difference on there.
That is
That's a
epic.
fine
though,
looking
man.
nativity.
So
Indeed.
yeah,
It sounds to me like that your daughter would just be made to be friends with my daughter
oh
when
she
it comes to
yeah.
kaiju.
Yeah, my youngest makes friends with anybody anywhere. So yeah, she's
So here's something else about games. Well, about toys today too. Because there were only a few lines in the '80s that you really had your pick from. Today, especially because of social media, popularity can explode for something that you wouldn't think would be popular. Why would Minecraft be worldwide popular? You wouldn't think it would be. When YouTube came out in the early 2000s, everyone was playing Minecraft. People made millions of dollars being streamers of Minecraft. It blew up, and no one would have expected it.
Yes.
The same way Pokemon did in the 90s, Minecraft blew up. And we see that in gaming today. Games are scary for developers because you don't know which one's going to just shoot off and make billions of dollars.
yeah. I've
That
seen some.
has to be scary to
Yeah, there's some-
Hasbro and Mattel.
I have seen some really good-looking games on being advertised, and they bomb.
Yeah.
They
Well-
just bomb. There was one I can't remember what it was. Basically similar to a. You remember how Nintendo had all the Nintendo characters in one game?
Oh,
this
yeah.
was this was with the role. It was had the I think this was I can't remember something Storm. It's coming to my mind. It was all the complex adult oriented type video games. They put them all of them into a big battle royale, and that was advertised on Hulu for a long time. When Hulu was free, that tells you how long ago it was. The game bombed. The game bombed. It
Yeah.
didn't succeed at all, and I actually thought it was because of the commercial, because Hulu played the commercial every time over and over for their segments for the commercial time, and it always started out with this guy who sounded like Jack Nicholson. Come out, wherever you are. I'd immediately mute it because I was so irritated hearing that voice. But
Go ahead, sorry.
So yeah, and if you put a lot of work into a game and then it fails, yeah, that's scary.
So I have two thoughts. One, none of you are going to get this except for Jim. But I'd just like to say that this stream is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. So just want to throw that out there. But the second thought is going back to like how games can fail and games can take off. there's no way Hasbro and Mattel could take advantage of that.
Yeah.
They tried. If you
Yeah.
think about the
There's no way
misstep
to
of
predict.
G.I. Joe Classified when they first
Yeah.
came out with the Fortnite-esque look, it's because they were trying to tie it into a game they had developed. The
Right.
game was a dud.
Yeah. Well, and you can make game or toys on Pokemon and Minecraft because they're established now. But how is a big company? Yeah, Jim hates me. How is a big company?
Yeah, Jim hates me.
How is a
He
big
doesn't
company?
hate. You don't hate him. Hate's a strong word.
Oh,
He
see,
does, but he
an
hates Raid
instructor-
Shadow Legends.
An instructor said that to me one time because I told my.
I hate him
instructor-
too, but he's right.
I once told an English teacher I hated Great Expectations.
Oh,
And
all right.
She said that to me. She's like, hate's a strong word. And I said, no. I hate that book. Anyway, going back to what I was saying.
Maybe hate isn't strong enough a word for Great Expectations. Despise.
Yeah.
Oath.
But if and I'm not saying it just has to be games connected to toys, but the way
He's
that
right.
we do things today, it's like as Mattel or Hasbro, how do you predict what kids are going to like today? You can't. And how are they
Yeah,
going to
no.
make toys for kids today? Well, they can't. They
You
don't
could
know
do
how.
them.
With us, they know exactly what we want. But with
Right, you
kids,
can-
they can't predict it.
Yeah, you
And,
could do
and
a
they
lot
still
of-
deliver. And
Yeah,
they
you
still
could-
don't deliver. They know what we want, and they still don't deliver. So you are
Agreed.
right.
They do a lot of market research, but they also have no idea what to do with social media and stuff. I mean, my father was a math professor, so we did a lot of statistics and stuff. And one of the statistics is with every time you send in a complaint or some response to a company, the statistics are there are at least 100 people that believe the same thing, same way. Well, that was back in the 80s and the 90s. That's no longer the case. Now you get people who just will regurgitate what somebody else said on Twitter, and the people that are in the position of authority in these companies were educated in the 80s and 90s, and so they think, oh no, if this one person said it and there's 50 people that have retweeted this, then there must be thousands of people that don't like this, and so they'll. There's an article that John Oliver did on his show where he was talking about how companies need to stay out of social media, and one of them was there was a hashtag through Twitter, "Why I Stayed." And what it was about domestic abuse. Women were commenting, "Why I stayed with this husband was because my children, or because of my relatives, or because I really thought he would change." They were deep, heartfelt reasons why I was. DiGiorno posted, "Because she got pizza." They just didn't know what they were doing. It was stupid. And so
another good example today, it's recent, in terms of like predictions. So, I don't know if everyone has seen it, but those who have seen it have liked the recent show, Harley Quinn.
okay,
Who have seen it? I've only watched the
seen
season,
it.
but
I haven't seen it.
I've watched the first 2 seasons of it, but I haven't seen it past that.
But it took off, and people on social media were very positive and kind of building on each other with that positivity. Then Velma came out, and the way it has been described.
Oh my God! That you even mentioned
So-
that on this channel here.
I'm trying to teach a lesson, Rolo.
All right. Okay. I will
So-
listen.
The way
That must be a great lesson, my friend. That must be a great
Hush, hush, Rolo. Let the man talk.
So with Velma, people, I've been talking to different people, and the consensus is it feels like they saw the popularity of Harley Quinn, and they thought, well, I can do that humor too. Whoever the actress is, I don't know the person who does Velma,
Yeah.
but there's this consensus of like, hey, I can do that too. So here's my show, and people on social media are like, you didn't really earn that though. Like, we've been watching Velma from day one, and we stayed with it because this positivity grew with it. Whereas you're just jumping on and saying, well, I'm copying the formula. Yeah, but I have
You
no
don't.
connection to you. I haven't watched you from day one. It's not hit
Hang
resonating
on
with
for a
me.
second there, Jesse. I'm just going to interject something in here. One of
Yeah.
the things that didn't happen in Harley Quinn was the showrunner didn't write herself in as Harley Quinn, whereas the showrunner over at Velma has made Velma her.
Yeah.
Everything about the Velma character on there is now the showrunner.
But a lot of people wouldn't know that. I don't know that, and I think the majority of audiences wouldn't know that she wrote herself in. They would just see it.
Well, the other thing is even on Harley Quinn, everything about that show paid homage to the original character, the original comics the character came from. Even if there were jokes in there, it was within the same vein, for lack of a better word. Whereas Velma, on the other hand, and here I go, I'm going to just do a bill. It shits on Scooby Doo in every way that it possibly can, up until the point of not even having Scooby freaking Doo in it in the first place. And now get ready for it, folks. The season finale is going to introduce Scooby Doo. And what's that going to be? Oh my God, it's probably going to be something they're going to shove up our butt again. So that's what's wrong with Velma. Go ahead, Jesse. Sorry to interject there, bro.
I mean,
I don't even need to talk. You say everything. Welcome to the dark side. Go
but regardless
ahead,
of all the
teacher.
reasons, because you're gonna have people who understand the properties, and you're gonna have lots of people who don't. But the general point I'm making is, even if you copy a formula, it could bomb.
Yeah.
And
Oh yes.
there's no way to predict that if you need to make
Oh,
toys
yes.
for a line. What if you were Mattel making toys for Harley Quinn? Well, I guess it would be McFarlane. And then you're a marketer at Hasbro, and you're like, well, this Velma show's coming out. We should get the rights because we feel like it's a copy, and therefore it's going to do it. And then it bombs, and you're like, oh, crap, we just lost a lot of money on making these toys. It's just with social media today and
It
how
is.
fast we can share our opinions on
Right.
something, there's
It
no
is
way
very-
to predict what's a good toy.
It's very easy. When I was it's very easy to miss the mark on what would actually sell in a toy line. When I was back in the 90s, I was collecting Tomart's Action Figure Digest, and there was an article about one of the guys over the Real American Hero G.I. Joe line, and he was flat out asked, if you could package anything that would make a toy line successful, what would that be? And he said, the fickleness of a 12-year-old. That was it. And you're absolutely right. You can't really say what would make a toy line. Then there's things that I look back, Disney in the past few years, there have been several times that they have dropped the ball on stuff. Like,
that's a statement there.
Yeah, it's a
Very
big-
nice. Very nice description. Very
yeah,
nice.
with
description.
for example, where they wouldn't release a toy of something, and then that something became popular, and they quickly hurried up to get it out. Like Dancing Groot, you remember the little at the end of there was
Oh,
that
yeah.
little dance.
Oh,
People
yeah.
loved that, but there was no character of that out until months after the movie was gone, because Disney was like, oh, nobody's going to like this. This isn't going to be. There was another thing I remember. If you remember the Baymax movie, what was that called? Big Hero 6. They had a scene with Baymax went up to one of the guys. He couldn't do when he would do a fist bump, he would do ba la 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 la. That there were kids in the toy aisles doing that in Walmart where I was. They would come up and they'd pick up the figure, and there was a talking figure of Baymax. Didn't make that sound at all.
Oh.
I was like, they missed that one.
There's a couple of points that Badger and you bringing up that makes me seriously thinking. It comes all to one point boiling down. And the big companies don't put enough attention to the market itself, right? Because you could feel the market and you could do your research. And what you said in your comment before it, World Made of Cardboard, is just right. How can it be that people like you and Bill and Carl are doing the job and advertising their products, and then in the end you're getting even punished by them for showing off certain figures or certain images or whatever. That is all the right. They don't know how to use the modern word at all. It
Oh,
seems to be
agreed.
like that, right?
Well, they're
So
definitely out of touch, and even slam dunks like Star Wars.
Yeah.
They
yeah,
they
should
said,
be an
"Oh,
easy
we'll make a
thing.
whole bunch of toys for these new Star Wars movies," and the movies were lackluster, and
Right.
everybody remembers tons of Rose Tikal toys in the
Right.
Mm,
aisles.
If you recall,
You'd have to wade through.
the
mm.
the first Star Wars film in '77, they they were rushing to get toys to the market. I mean, everything.
Right.
The prequels. Do you remember when the first prequel came out? There were people standing in line at midnight at Toys R Us
Yeah,
waiting for the
Yeah.
store to open.
nothing.
The aisle was full, just from one end to the other, of just Star Wars stuff. I was not one of the ones waiting till it opened. I was at work. I came home. On the way home, I pulled off and looked at. There was stuff everywhere. The
Hmm.
last sequel, the last one, which is supposed to end the whole saga and everything. Okay, that was a disaster. It was. Uh, there's a store near where, not in Fort Worth, called the Holocron Toy Store. All they sell is Star Wars stuff. That's it. And I went in there and I was talking with the owner, and I said, I didn't going in through Walmart. I didn't see any Star Wars toys in there. I mean, they had a couple of little trinket things, but you've got a section here of
It doesn't
16.
sell.
Yeah, you got a section of 3 3/4 inch $16 figures. What's happened? And he said, Hasbro decided not to release a mainline Star Wars toy line, Star Wars product. And I think he saw my jaw hit the floor, and I was like, "You're
That's because
kidding."
so
Okay, how
many
stupid you
so
can
many
get.
retailers took a bath on the Last Jedi toys. I
Oh
mean, you
yeah,
can still find
Yeah.
those damn things hanging in ollies.
uh
That's
huh,
Yeah.
why they didn't do Rise of Skywalker toys,
right,
because the Last Jedi just was a huge turd.
yeah,
Well,
and
it's like someone over there has got it in for Star Wars and wants to destroy everything that we love dearly about Star Wars and replace it with something that's not Star Wars, and that seems
right,
to be the case with a lot of what we consider our beloved pop culture. Is that it's being broken down and replaced with something that's not what we remember, and I don't know if that's on purpose or what the
Well, I
one
also
of
No, I
feel.
just want to bring up one example. One example. Anybody of you remembers the movie that was put millions in it. It was one of the big productions of the '80s. All big actors in this. One of the lead roles, Rutger Hauer. All the lineup. Does anybody remembers the movie when the Third Reich won the war?
no.
No, because this is not the thing that you want to see. That is not the thing that happens. And when they're going that same road down right now, they cannot expect us to just swallow it down. And please invent another thing if you want to tell a different story.
agreed,
Mhm. And that's the
agreed.
point
Now,
I was about to make.
on a
Because, yeah.
positive note, panel, we do have something that has succeeded. Now, I don't know if it's going to get any further seasons or not, but the CGI version of He-Man seems to be have the same spirit of He-Man,
Great.
even if it
It's
looks
great.
different, even
I
if
love it.
it appears to be a little different. But the
I love
spirit
it.
is there. That is good, and
I'm
that means that it is possible to take something,
Yeah.
reinvent it, and bring it out for something that today's children would like. That still has the same spirit as the original. And my wish is that this other stuff that's being destroyed, basically, would take a page out of the book of what they're doing with CGI He-Man.
I've always
Yeah.
wondered why Mattel. There must be some licensing thing, something behind the scenes that I don't see, we don't see. I've always wondered why they didn't release He-Man in the Imagine Next line. the little 2-inch figures, 2.25-inch figures.
They've done it in
Castle Gray,
everything else. I mean, they've
yeah,
done
they
it with
Castle
do.
people.
Grayskull and the Imaginext, where you could put the figures in, twist
Yeah,
something, and
that
do
would
all.
be great. I might even buy something like that
Yeah, it would
myself personally.
it would be it would really fit for that kid. It has the entire aspect of imagination and development, but I'm not sure why they haven't done it. It has to be something with whoever owns the license or whoever
I'm
owns
not.
Imaginext or whatever. It has to be something like
I
I'm
that.
not
don't
sure
know.
about licensing because they do Imaginext
Right.
figures, right?
There's sometimes where you can't have something carry over into another line due to a licensing deal.
Right.
And I think
All
it just
right.
something
Well,
like that.
at least Mattel stayed in the toy business. Hasbro
Yes.
is in the trouble they're in now because they tried to get into the movie
Oh.
business.
Right.
Anybody
That was
remember
a disa-
Battleship,
Oh,
the
God.
movie? Somebody
Oh,
thought that was a good
Battleship.
idea.
Well, and that
Before-
brings up a
And
good
then
point.
the
Before
G.I. Joe
anybody
movies
says
had nothing to
anybody
do
more
with
All right,
sing.
stop talking
anything-
at the same time.
Yeah.
One at a time.
I have to
G.I.
say,
Joe
I have
mov-
to say one thing.
Okay, roll.
Studio, and there you go.
All right.
Okay. The G.I. Joe movies were such a misfire because
Yes.
they never read any of the great G.I. Joe comic books that had. It's like just pick a comic book that had a good storyline, make a film, it done deal. They couldn't
Yeah.
do that. They had to create this whole weird sideline where it's like the Cobra Commander was actually Dr. Mindbender, who was the cousin of the second brother, sister,
that
mother's
was-
uncle of. It's
Yeah.
like what? I mean,
And
it was
bouncing-
just nuts.
Bouncing
That-
off of that, I was reading the interview with one of the people who ran who was one of the people who worked on the cartoon Renegades. And he was recently stating how they were trying to reach out to Hasbro for a toy line for Renegades. Has nothing to do with the comics, has nothing to do with the past. It was a G.I. Joe cartoon that was taking off and getting a new audience. But Hasbro stepped in and said, you can't. Hasbro needs to make the toys for our G.I. Joe movie that we're super confident in. And he basically said, we didn't get our shot to make our toys or even to have a season 2 of Renegades because we had to yield to Hasbro's film decision and the toys for that. And it's like,
That was
you don't
a
even
bad
have
move.
to go back to the comic books. You can have new stuff,
Right.
but you play it too safe, and then you let
Right. And
stupid
even
people
before
make
that,
decisions.
there was G.I. Joe Resolute, which was they did it like webisodes, but it was a
Yeah.
good story. And there
Resolute.
was a few toys that went with that, but they didn't really follow through.
Yeah. When I saw Resolute, the first part where main characters were getting killed off and everything,
Yeah.
I was like, this is how I played with G.I. Joe with my toys. I mean, when I watched that G.I. Joe cartoon movie where they introduced Cobra Law and all that kind of stuff, I know it was terrible. I know it was bad, but I loved it. And I came up with something totally different in my own imagination.
Yeah.
Cobra Commander survived it. Not by, it wasn't him that was turned into the snake. He had thought years ago that he was doing all this, raising his own army to take over the world, and he's going to hand it over to Globulus? No, he wanted to be the ruler. So he brainwashed a guy to become Cobra Commander. And when if you watch the beginning of that movie, and you see them running down the hall, and Cobra and Serpentor says that there's maybe there's an assassin trying to get to Serpentor and everything, and Cobra Commander says, "Yes, I know. We'll root him." He goes down and he sees Pythona running down the hall. He says, "Okay, it's happened. I've dilly-dallied. I've played along enough. Globulus is making his move." So that's the last time you see the real Cobra Commander. This is my imagination, okay, as a teenager. And so I had some guy named Fred that was a Crimson Guard that got brainwashed into thinking he was Cobra Commander. That was what was changed into the Snake. Cobra Commander was living it up on an island out in the middle of the Caribbean while G.I. Joe was fighting Cobra Law, because he knew one of two things. Either Cobra Law wins I go in and I assassinate Globulus, and I'm king. If G.I. Joe wins, I'm back to the way it was, and I can take over. And when I saw Resolute and they were killing off main characters, I had that. Major Blood was one of the first characters that Cobra Commander killed off. And I was like, dang, did someone copy my story? I didn't even write it down.
Well,
so,
someone copied your story later. There's a major video game that does exactly what you described.
I needed to get into some of this stuff.
You
I
need,
think you wanted to sew in.
you need to see if Konami owes you money.
Yeah, I can remember. I'll tell you this. When I was a kid, I think I was in 8th grade. I found a radio antenna on the playground, and it was just the antenna, and I pulled it out. I had a single fold wallet that fit that antenna just fine, and I stuck it in there, pulled it out, and I acted like it was a phone. And I told one of my friends, it'd be really kind of neat to have a phone you could stick in your pocket. He chewed me out. He was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm trying to get away from the phone. I don't want a phone I can carry. I bet you he's got one. So, yeah, I was that kid.
But everybody wants one that doesn't have one. Yeah.
So, yeah, G.I. Joe had such big promise. It was a fun little line. Toward the end in the 90s, they began to copy everything. In fact, one of the guys in that same article said fickleness of a 12-year-old. He said they were watching movies like Aliens and stuff like that. That's where the Mega Marines came in. Mm-hmm. They had just bought Kenner. They wanted to Kenner Tonka. They wanted to bring in other things, so they put the Play-Doh in it, and they had them fighting these alien-looking, these monster creatures. And so my first thought was, so instead of leading the way, they're following now.
Yeah.
And
that might be very pathetic, sorry to say that, but you can't live just on the past or on the glory of the past. You have to build the glory of the future,
right?
In whatever you do.
Yeah,
right,
it was hard though in the 90s, because I'm just thinking about what was on my TV at the time. You got Legacy Toy Line, that wasn't really on television anymore. It wasn't syndicated in my part of California, but what was syndicated was the Power Rangers, and suddenly I'm blanking on everything, but like there was property after property. You got to stand out. G.I. Joe was really in a bad spot at that time, because kids my age, I had no idea what it was. There was no cartoon for me to look at. So
and I can also say that during the 90s was when Hasbro was trying to go a little on the political side. They had the Eco Warriors and the Drug Elimination Force and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, Jesus, yes.
I thought that was based on Captain
I actually enjoyed them, but I actually had them. I was in college and I actually had money. I was one of those weird kids that actually had money in college. And I was buying them and everything. But what was really neat is I could buy the entire series that was released and still have there were still toys on the shelf for other kids to buy, and it didn't cost me $30 a figure. But now I can remember when it was in the mid 2000s when someone actually asked them, "You've got G.I. Joe, why aren't you releasing G.I. Joe stuff?" And the spokesperson, there's an article online I read, she basically said, well, in this day and age of terrorist groups, we can't do this. So they weren't releasing it. But the Lenard's The Core has been on the shelf since the 80s, so they were apparently missing something. Yeah. And I hear the slow jam music, so I guess we're getting through here, huh?
I swore that was an ad on a different screen. I was trying to figure out how to turn it off.
You got to feed the ducks.
Yeah, we're coming up on the top of the hour here. We've gone 2 hours. 2 hours is our limit, and it seems like that actually the first hour is kind of the warm up, and the second hour is where all the good shit is. So I see the viewer count starting to diminish in the second hour. You guys are missing out by doing that. But anyway, yeah, it's been a great chat, guys. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
World Made of Cardboard, Gojatron, Epic Badger, even Rolo, who popped out. Grindhead Jim just been working hard there in the live chat with us. There's the little Badger. Good to see him showing up tonight. So we're reaching the end of the show, and I'm just glad everybody showed up, and we'll see you all tomorrow night for late night with Bill and Largo. We got some good stuff planned for that. And remember, everybody, have a good journey.
Special thanks to these supporters on Patreon. Without your help, these adventures would not be possible. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's adventure, please hit like and subscribe and share the video.